All right, everybody, welcome to Mind Judo for another episode. I know it's been a while since the last time we recorded something. Um, Grateful that you guys are back to listen to me blab and talk about stuff and kind of get things off my chest. And hopefully, this the things that we talk about here on Mind You will help somebody along the way. And if that's the case, well, then it's worth it. I'm hoping and trying to work towards being more productive with this podcast and releasing more episodes. But for now, this is what we got. This is what we're doing. I wanted to have some value to it. I wanted to have some depth to it. I don't want it to just be some run of the mill thing where I'm just out here blabbing and boring everybody. I want people to get something out of this, right? So, again, thank you for joining me. Thank you for tuning in, and let's talk. Let's see what we're going to talk about. I think last time we talked about building a foundation, right? We're starting to build a judo. So with building any kind of building, we had to dig deep, right? We had to dig deep to start to build up. We had to get rid of a lot of things that we don't need, a lot of things that just is trash in our lives, right? We had to clear that lot. And a lot of times when we remove those things from our life that we don't need, it's kind of painful because sometimes it's things we've held on to for a long time. And when you're taking those kinds of things out of your life, it hurts for a moment, right? It hurts for a minute. It's just a season that it's going to hurt, and it's going to be worth it in the end. You know, it'll be worth getting rid of those people out of your life that aren't benefiting you, that are just like leeches on your life, and they're just like sucking the life force out of you, and they only want you around when it's convenient for you, for them, or people like, we all know people like that. We all know people that don't feed our spirits or our souls or our lives, and they just pull from that, right? They're always there to suck the life out of you, drain the energy out of you, in some cases even drain your finances, drain your time, and them time kind of things that we don't need in our lives. They're not going to get us anywhere. Let's just be honest. Those types of people they're not going to get us anywhere. They're there for themselves. They're very self-centered, very selfish people, and they just want out of you what they want, and that's it. And then they move on to the next person, or they just leave you alone for a little while until it's time to come back and get some more out of your life. So getting rid of a lot of stuff when you're building something in your life is important. Get rid of it. Let it go. Whatever those past hurts, habits, or hangups, just get rid of it, move on, let it go, and start building something new, start building something beautiful for yourself and for your life. So when you build up the building, you set the foundation, right? You dig deep for your footers. You build the foundation nice and solid and firm. It looks good. You got to build some walls, And a lot of times when, you hear people say, "Well, you got to take those walls down," and walls aren't healthy for you, and when you build walls, people can't get in, and you could lose a blessing with those walls. But that's not always the case. Like those people that suck the life out of you. It'd be pretty cool if you had a wall built up, right? And it's not there to be bad. You got to preserve the things that God gives you. You got to, especially if you're going through a time of healing. When I told you guys in the beginning, I was gonna be transparent with you guys. So years ago, when I started building up walls in my life, the walls of my life were there through things I experienced as a kid growing up to my teenage years. Some of the things that I experienced growing up were self-inflicted, and some of them weren't self-inflicted. Those were inflicted on me, and I had no choice but to deal with them. There was a lot of times in my life where I felt like I was worthless, like I had no purpose or point of being on this earth. You know, I went through abuse as a kid, and whenever you that happens, you don't feel like you're worth anything. You just feel like you're here for no reason, right? And you just kind of drift through this life, and you have your head hung low, and there's just nothing that fills that void of despair in your life. There's nothing. And so like for me, I searched for a lot of different ways to fill that void. And some of the walls that I put up around me were walls of distrust. I didn't trust anybody growing up. I didn't trust anybody as a teenager. When I was out doing my thing, running around town, I didn't trust nobody. There might have been a few people that I would rely on that I knew would have my back, but that was very few and far between. But as far as trusting anybody, that wasn't happening for me. It just wasn't who I was or how I did things. And my biggest walls were addiction. You know, when at a young age I became addicted to drugs. And the walls of addiction, those walls were just big walls. They were bad walls. Nobody could get into those walls. And there was times where I wanted those walls to come down because I wanted help. You know, it's like crying and yelling out for help deep inside of you and you have no voice. You know, I don't know if any of you guys have ever just buried your face in a pillow and just cried out in this agony and this pain and this defeat, but you know nobody's going to hear you because your voice is drowned out. That's how addiction gets you. You know, nobody comes into this earth, and I absolutely mean nobody is brought into this earth wanting to be an addict. My first words whenever I was a little boy were not, I can't wait to be a dope head. It sounds crazy, but nobody intentionally wants to be those things. Nobody wants to be a porn addict. Nobody wants to be an alcoholic. Nobody wants to be a violent, abusive person. Nobody wants to be this, you know, pathological liar or whatever your case may be. You weren't intended for that. That wasn't part of your, you know, whenever you went to school, elementary school, and it was career day, and the teacher says, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" You know, not a doubt anybody raised their hand and was like, "I want to be a dope addict. I want to be a thief. You know what, teacher? I just want to be a bum. I just want to leech off of people and not do anything with my life." I don't think there's very many of us, if any at all, that could say that that's how they chose to live their life. We go through those life situations and those things in our lives. It's by choice. We choose to do that, and it's to cover up hurt. It's to cover up pain. It's to like help us to feel like we detached from reality. It's to numb us, right? It's a numbing thing that we're looking for, something to mask what we're going through. And so, as a young guy, 15 years old, I think I was 15 years old when I started using drugs. And it started off with marijuana, moved over to cocaine. I was already drinking by then, you know, and from there it just went. I mean, I don't think there's anything out there that we didn't try during those times. I don't think there's, and I'm not proud of that stuff, but I just had this drive in me to destroy myself. That's what happens when you don't feel like you're worth anything. That's what happens when you have so much despair in your life and you don't understand why the things that were done to you, you don't understand that stuff. And so you have this despair in you and you are just in a driving mode forward to destroy everything about yourself and everything around you. At least that was me. That was my story. So when I started feeling the effects of drugs, and I could actually feel how they would numb these things that I would go through and how they would, you know, remove me temporarily, of course, but remove me from the reality of the life that I lived. You know, remove me from having to go home and, you know, do all these things, but it caused so much more chaos. It caused so much more devastation and hurt. I heard all my loved ones were upset with me when they found out, and it was just this crazy cycle, you know. And I just thought to myself, I'm just gonna die. I'm just gonna die like this. I'm gonna be that young man that's gonna be in the newspaper that either OD'd or took his own life. You know, that was the road that I was on at age 15. And as I got older, the addiction just grew worse. The drugs became crazier, you know. The things that we were doing, you know, me and people I hung out with were just horrible things. I was that teenager that your parents looked at and were like, "No, you're not going to hang around with that guy. You know, you have no business hanging around with that guy or the crowd he runs with." And the craziest thing is, when I would be leaving the house to go out, certain people would come by the house to pick me up, and my mom would see who it was, or my abuela would see who it was, and they're like, "No, you have no business hanging around with so and so. They are bad influence on you. They're no good for you, and you shouldn't be hanging around with them. You're gonna get nothing but trouble." But I was that guy. I was the bad guy. I was the one that the kids shouldn't be, hanging out with and spending time with, because I was that troublemaker. I was that guy that, if I was told no, it was an automatic yes, because I did the complete opposite of what I was told to do. Stubborn, I was radical. I didn't listen to anybody. But that was my path. Those were the walls had built up around me. And nobody was going to penetrate those walls. Nobody was going to pull those walls down, because nobody was going to tell me how to live my life. So those are walls that we put up that are not good for our lives. Those are walls that we have up there that don't allow help to come in, that don't allow any good thing to come in. Those are the types of walls that we need to pull down in our lives. And if it wasn't for my relationship with Christ, if it wasn't for me giving my life to the Lord whenever I was 25 years old in jail, I would not be sitting here with this story, sharing with you guys on this podcast and on YouTube. I wouldn't be here sharing these kind of stories, because I would, more than likely, I'd probably be dead, or at least locked up in the penitentiary for a long while. One of those two. That were the only options I had in my life at that time. That was it. That's exactly what I was working towards, and that's exactly where I was going to end up had I not changed my ways, had I not made a decision to accept God into my life and stop that cycle of chaos and addiction and hate and unforgiveness and bitterness in my life. I made a choice to stop. I had a family by the time I stopped. I had 2 young kids. I had a wife, and we had built a home together, and, we did all the things that we did. And, my kids played sports and they had activities, and I was standing there trying to be this good dad, this role model for my kids, man. And inside I was trash. I was just nothing, but I faked a good smile. I had a nice mask on, right? I walked around everywhere with these big old walls built up around me, and I portrayed an image of a good man. I worked. I've always held a job. And if people really knew me for who I was, and there was few that did, it would have probably been a different story. When word of my addiction got around and family members started knowing that I was hooked on meth really bad, it started changing my life. It started changing the way people were seeing me. It started changing the jobs that I would get. From the time I moved away from Artesia 4 years ago, I've been clean and sober going on 16 years next month. But I moved away 4 years ago, and there was still jobs in town that I could not get, and I couldn't help but think that it was because people were still remembering me for my past. Those help you keep those walls up. Those help you keep those walls exactly where they are, because as long as those walls up, you control who is in and out of your life, and you control what's going to hurt you and what's not going to hurt you. It's crazy. It's a trip. I look back at those days and I'm like, man, I am so grateful to God that He even considered looking at me worthy enough to rescue. So grateful to God, and He didn't have to, but it's because He loved me. He loved me before He knew me. He loved me. The foundations of this world were being built. He loved you and all your mess. You don't have to be perfect to come to God. Coming to God will make you perfect, and the biblical perfect, not the world perfect. A biblical perfect is mature, right? It'll help you grow and become the person that you need to be, who God created and called you to be, right? So let's talk about some good walls, all right? Now, I know that I had a history of addiction in my life. So as I was working and piecing my life together, trying to build back up my life and build up my self-esteem and find some kind of a self-worth in me after the addiction, I had to put up some walls. I had to put up some walls between me and certain friends that I was hanging around with, so I wouldn't be around that element no more. So that way I wouldn't have to battle that temptation of doing drugs or, smoking, whatever, or riding around late at night, wreaking havoc around town. I had to put those walls up because I had to protect myself. I had to not necessarily isolate myself, but I had to set up barriers around me of who could come into my life at that point. There were certain people that couldn't come into my life at that point no more. And no matter how much love I have for those people till this day, they weren't healthy for me back then. I was not strong enough to say no to anything that they would possibly offer me or anything that just may have been laying there on the table. I was not strong enough at that point to walk away from that. So I had to put up these barriers, right? These walls. I built up these walls. I built them nice and high because I knew that those friends, quote unquote, that I used to run the streets with, they weren't going to take the time to try to climb over these walls to come see me. They weren't going to take the time to put their dope away and come sit with me on my porch and just talk about life, talk about our family and our kids and what God was doing and things like that. They weren't good enough friends to do that. They didn't care about none of that. They were still doing their thing and living their life the way that they've always lived. And so I knew that those walls were working. And when it was time for me to take down those walls, I took those walls down. A lot of the folks that I ran with back in the day, I don't necessarily have a strong relationship with them right now, but whenever I see them, it's a nice strong hug around the neck and, hey man, what's going on? How's the family? They know where I'm at in my life. They respect where I'm at in my life. So the drugs and that crazy lifestyle are not even an option no more. It's not even an invite no more. It's not an expectation. It's just not on the table no more. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I can look back or, even have people around me that are smoking weed and it doesn't even bother me. It doesn't bother me. Back in the day, it would have bothered me. But now it don't. God has blessed me with so much. I'm not going to turn back now and go back to that old me, because the Bible tells us that when you return back to your own sin, it's like a dog returning back to its vomit. I don't know about any of you, but I've seen dogs go back and eat their vomit, and it's disgusting. I think that's the nastiest thing that they could do. And then the Bible tells us that, that's how it is when we run back to our sin. That's how it is when we keep going back to the same old thing over and over and over and over again. It's as a dog returning to its vomit. I don't want to eat no vomit. I don't want to do that no more. I'd have to carry around a bottle of Listerine with me, and eat the vomit and then wash my mouth out because that's disgusting, right? So when you leave a sin and you're healed from that lifestyle or you're rescued from that lifestyle, let it be. Leave it where it lays. Let it be. Move on. Put you up some walls. They're going to keep you from that lifestyle, even if it means that the hardest part for me when I stopped living that life, the hardest part for me was leaving the friends behind, because some of those friends were people that I knew since we were kids, and I'm talking about little kids. So it was we were more than just drug buddies, man. We were lifelong friends, and some of those friends that I left behind in that lifestyle, that was hard for me. That was hard for me because I felt that I was leaving a piece of my life behind. But in time, I learned, and I learned the hard way that our relationship wasn't a two-way street, because they didn't care enough to come and chase me down and see me, just to see how I was doing or see how the family was going. And that's fine. They were doing their thing. I hold no grudges to them for any of that. And I'm okay with that because I understand now. At first, I didn't understand. At first, it was pretty hard to deal with because I'm a social person. And I'm still a social person to this day. I like being around people. I like being around crowds. I like hanging out, listening to music, having a few drinks. I like doing all that stuff. It's a good time. I believe in community. So you can put these walls up to protect yourself for a season as you're growing and as you're learning and as you're developing good, healthy habits. You can put these walls around you, but there comes a time where you got to pull those walls down too. Okay. And you pull those walls down for the simple fact that sometimes things are coming to bless you. And when you have those walls up, you're not going to be able to see that blessing coming. It kind of don't make sense, but it kind of makes sense if you think about it. Because when we have those walls up, we have a wall because we're focusing on, you know, self health, self care. All right. I want to lose 150 pounds. In order to lose this 150 pounds, I got to put these walls up for fast food. I got to put these walls up for burritos and those little roach coaches that are all over town that have amazing burritos. And those things just, they are here by the devil because they get me every time. I'm always stopping and buying me a little burrito or a taco at those little trucks, and I'm still fat. So a lot of times when you put up these kind of walls, that's your focus. That's what you're looking at. You're looking at, hey, I want to do this, this, and that. So I want to put these walls up because I'm going to contain myself within these walls to focus on a better me. And then along comes something that's trying to bless you and help further your health or help further that better me, but you can't see it because you're just so tunnel vision and you got these walls built up around you. So there's times where these walls need to come down and you need to have transparency with yourself. All right, you got to have transparency with yourself. Hey, I know that I fail. I know that I don't have very good discipline. So I have to walk with this transparency of myself, and I'm going to go walk past these, amazing food trucks, and I just have to be well enough with myself that I'm not going to go get me something fried, greasy, or loaded with fat. You have to start developing a good disciplined character to get where you're going. And all that stuff comes by trial and error, right? You don't get strong at the gym just by going and lifting weights one day. I know that's amazing to say that, and some people are probably like, "What? What do you mean, man? I went one day and gained all this muscle." No, you didn't. It took me years to get fat. And it's going to take me years to get healthy to where I want to be. Okay? It takes time, it takes effort, it takes discipline, it takes whatever you got in you to make these good things in your life happen. It takes all of that. You have to have all that put together to be that person that God created you to be. To be that role model for your kids if you have kids. To be that good husband to your wife if you're married, and vice versa. I'm a grandpa now, and I look at my granddaughter, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to get healthy, quit being so fat, quit eating so much junk because here I got a 2-year-old granddaughter, and I want to be around to see this kid grow and do the things that God has planned out for her life. I want to be around to be able to do these things. And if I keep on going on the track that I'm going with, eating unhealthy and doing the things that I'm doing, not exercising, I don't know what's going to happen in my life. I don't want to be that grandfather that can't move and play catch with my granddaughters or any of my future grandkids, if I may have any. I don't want to be that grandpa that can't move and play with them. I want to be active. I want to be able to run around and play with them. I may not be able to climb the jungle gym or do flips and stuff like that, but at least if I can squat and catch balls for my granddaughter, she's pitching to me, I want to be able to do that. I did it for my daughter. I want to be able to do that now. So those are the things that kind of drive me, right? And you have to find those things in your life that drive you. What drives you? What's your purpose today? What are the things that are going on in your life that you need to let go? Walls that you got to bring down, new walls that you need to put up to help better yourself, and then those walls that you got to bring down to be transparent with yourself. It's okay to fail. Did you know that? It's okay to fail. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to feel bad for those mistakes. It's okay to cry for those mistakes or the things that go wrong in your life. Those things are okay. We all go through those things. That's your humanity. You're human. Don't come down on yourself too hard for making those mistakes. Don't come down on yourself and feel like you are worthless, because you're not worthless. You have a God that created you in the likeness in his own image. You have a calling on your life. You are sent here for a purpose, for a season, and for a purpose. Every one of you has a purpose. I have a purpose. My granddaughter came into our lives 2 years ago as a purpose for my family. You got that purpose. You just got to dig deep, pull those walls down, and find that purpose. These are the things that you struggle with in your mind. These are the things that you wrestle with, right? You wake up, you look at yourself in the mirror, and you may not like what you see. And that's okay. It's okay to not like what you see because we're a flawed person. We are a flawed person with, with baggage. And that's okay. I gave this advice to somebody on Facebook not long ago, and I hope that this person did this. Years ago when I first came to the Lord, I was going through a season of finding out who Roman is, what my purpose in the ministry was, what my purpose in my family was, and just what my purpose in life in general was. And my pastor at the time, he was listening to me, and he listened hard to me for like 2 or 3 days. And I was just talking to him and just sharing with him the deepest parts of my soul. And he kind of smiled and he leaned back. He said, "Mijo, I want you to do this. I want you to do something for me." I said, "All right, Pastor, what is it?" He said, "When you get home, when you're by yourself," he said, "I want you to get a mirror, put it in front of yourself, stand there and look into this mirror." And I was like, okay, how's looking into the mirror gonna help you with anything? And he goes on to say, he said, "I want you to look into that mirror and I want you to apologize to yourself. I want you to apologize to that person that you see in the mirror and tell him you're sorry." And I'm like, "Dude, I don't understand." He's like, "Tell him you're sorry for your faults and then name your faults by name. I want you to forgive yourself. Forgive the person that's looking back at you, Roman. And forgive them for all the things that you've done wrong, where you failed, where you've fallen short, your goals, your dreams, your, whatever. I want you to apologize. I want you to be in a place with that person that you're looking at and be okay with the person that you see." I didn't think much of it. I thought, man, that's kind of crazy. It's kind of weird, off the wall, right off the wall Christianity. I'm like, oh, you dang radical Christians. It's too crazy for me. So one day I'm sitting at the house, wife and the kids were gone. And I'm just kind of sitting there. I was listening to some music. I went to the bathroom to use the restroom. And I'm washing my hands, and boom, lo and behold, there's a mirror in front of me, right? So I just stare at that person that's looking at me. And at that moment, once I made eye contact with that person that was looking back at me in that mirror, I knew that I was in a God time at that moment. I knew that the presence of God was with me in that bathroom, and that something amazing was fixing to take place in my life. And I just stared this dude down, right? I just gave him that look, that Vato Loco look, like, "What's up, fool? You don't know me. What are you doing?" And so I'm just looking at this guy's eyes, and I say, "I'm sorry, Roman. I'm sorry." And the moment I said I'm sorry, this dam that had been built up in my heart, this wall that had been built up in my heart, just came crashing down. I mean, like, literally crashing down. I felt this flood of peace and joy just overtake my body. And I'm sitting there just looking at it, and I'm like, "Roman, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry for being an addict for so long and ruining your dreams." And I mean, I just went through this whole thing of repentance, asking for forgiveness of myself, telling myself, everything that I was sorry for. As a kid growing up, I always wanted to be a cop. Seriously, I always wanted to be a cop. And because of my drug addiction, I never achieved that dream. And I had told myself, sorry for not, reaching your dreams of becoming a police officer so you can help people and help the community. And I'm just going through all this repentance and this healing and all this junk, and it's just coming out. I mean, it's just like crying, ugly crying buggers and the whole 9 yards, and I knew that what was happening is I was letting go of that old Roman. I was letting go and putting down those old walls that had kept me captive for so long. That ended that day. That old Roman was put to rest. That old Roman was no longer alive or active, well, moving around. He was gone. That old life was gone. My new life began that day. God began to rebuild in me that day, and it's still going on to this day. And I'm so grateful for that moment. I am grateful for that moment where I knew God was with me. Like I could feel Him. Like He was there. His breath, I could feel it on me. I could feel His embrace. I could just feel Him. I knew He was there, and there was nobody or nothing that could ever take that experience away from me, because I know it was that real, you know. And I want you to experience that. I want somebody, all of you, one of you who's listening to this podcast right now, this evening, I challenge you this evening, get in front of a mirror when you're all alone, when it's just you. And be sincere with yourself. Be transparent. Be honest with yourself. Get in front of that mirror. Look at that person that's staring back at you. That person looking at you can be your biggest enemy or can be your biggest supporter, can be your biggest fan. That person looking back at you is the person that's going to lift you up or pull you down. Get right with that person. Be transparent with yourself. Forgive yourself for your shortcomings, where you fall short. The things that you wanted to do in life, you never accomplished. It's okay. As long as you have breath in your body, you can accomplish things on this earth. Don't ever count yourself out. Don't ever think that you ain't good enough, worthy enough, smart enough, fast enough, talented enough. Don't ever think those things about yourself, because that is not who you are. In fact, those are lies from the devil. You are all those things. You are all those things. With the presence of God in you, that makes you supernatural. That makes you're created. Just like in Genesis tells us, you're created in the image and in the likeness of God. And I just pray that somebody does it. Seriously. Seriously. Do this exercise. Get it done. Pull those walls down and have some freedom in your life. Have some joy in your life. Find some comfort, some peace, some love in your life. Learn to love yourself. I'm not perfect by any stretch of that definition. I am not nowhere perfect. And I hope that anybody does not look at me and think, this dude thinks he's perfect, blah, 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 blah. That is not the case. People who really know me know the real Roman. They know my struggles. They know where I come from. They know where I'm going. They know where I'm at currently. They don't judge me because I like a glass of whiskey. They don't judge me because I'll take a shot of tequila. That's not my lifestyle. That's not what I do on a daily basis. But whenever I want to enjoy myself, those are things that I do. So don't think that I'm coming to you from a pedestal. I'm coming to you from a place of brokenness. I'm coming to you from a place of transparency and truth. I'm coming to you from a place where God has sent me to reach people that are going through the things that I've gone through, or going through the things that I'm going through. I just want to be a voice. I just want to be obedient. When God says, Roman, son, I want you to speak, I want to speak. You know, if He can make a donkey and the talk and the rocks cry out, like He talks about in the scriptures, He can use anybody. He can use you. Open yourselves up to what God has called you for. Don't be scared. Do that. Do that. Do that. Do that. Do that. Get that mirror. Have that mirror experience. Get in your word. Read. Get your prayer life going. Honor God in all things that you do. All the things, the good and the bad, they come. Praise God. You know, in the mountaintops and the valleys, praise God. Know that God is with you. He'll never leave you. Jesus died for you. Jesus loves you. Let Him into your heart. Let Him be Lord of your life. Let Him fix those broken things that are in you. Let Him love on you like you've never been loved before. Let His love just pour all over you right now. His peace just rain out in your life. We need peace. We're in the middle of February 2021, and it's crazy. It's like 2020 never ended. But joy comes in the morning. Let's not pay attention to the things that are going on around us. Let's not get lost in those conspiracies. And I'm one preaching the choir right here, because I get lost in them all the time, you know, more than I like to admit. So have that time. Have that time. We're coming to a time in our lives where we're going to experience the greatest harvest of souls this world has ever seen. and be a part of it. Be a part of it. Love somebody today. Help somebody today. Share a word of encouragement with somebody today. What do you think? It's easier said than done. I know. But get it done. God is with you. He's gone before you. I love you guys. From the bottom of my heart, I love you guys. Hope everybody's well. Hope everybody stays warm in these crazy frigid temperatures that just hit. So crazy. Hope everybody does good. Thank you for listening to another episode of Mind Judo. Grateful for all of you. Please share this. It's encouraging to me whenever people are sharing this because I know that it may help somebody. It may help somebody, and I'm all for that. That's what I want. So share this, comment, send me a private message if you need to talk. Hit me up. I'm always available. I may not have all the best advice in the world, but I got a good listening ear. I'll listen to you. I love you. I care about you. And again, thanks. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.